Hello, everyone. My name is Candace Sims, and I am an end of life coach. And today is my support group meeting night, Thursday night. Every other Thursday, I host a support group. And there are times when no one shows up for group, and that is totally fine. It's actually sometimes to be expected because grief is so difficult to talk about. It's one of those things that it's something that you're supposed to do. It's something that's good to do, but it's hard talking about the things that pain you the most because they bring tears. Just talking about it, just thinking about it brings emotions that you've never dealt with before. It causes the body anxiety from time to time. And it causes you to reflect on, why am I feeling this way? Why does this pain hurt so badly? And if left untreated, see, this is the thing. If left untreated, it gets worse. And not only does the grief get worse, but you get worse. Grief is an energy. It has a purpose. We don't know what the purpose is until we lean into it. Grief either makes you or it breaks you. Grief humanizes us. It helps us to understand that we're not robotic, we're not mechanical, we're real, we're human, and we have the capability to feel. We have the ability to love, to forgive, to be angry, to be aware of our surroundings, and to be aware of the things that pained other people. Awareness is what I'm going to talk about today. But if you have never engaged in a corporate form of group support, these are some things that I want to share with you so that you know what to expect. Every support group facilitator ought to show up. No matter who comes, no matter how many people show up, your group facilitator should always be there. So it's a commitment. I am committing to those who choose to come to group support because that's just what it is. It's support. Group support should be a safe environment. It should be stated that everything that is spoken within the group amongst the participants should be held in the strictest of confidentiality. That means those who are in the group, along with the facilitator, are to hold what people say in the strictest of confidentiality out of respect, knowing how difficult it is to share those things that are near and dear to your heart. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that I'm an open book. I've shared my story so many times over the years that I find that my story can be healing. So I give my participants permission to share anything that I bring to my support group, especially if they find it beneficial for themselves or their family members to get through a difficult situation. Group support is meant to be supportive. The facilitator should always come prepared with a theme and with a lesson, just in case the participants are unable to share or feel or find that it's hard for them to share. You don't want a 45-minute to an hour group of just silence. You want to come prepared with information to help your participants understand how to navigate through emotions and stages of grief and loss. So we do that. And the stages of grief and loss, there are 5 primary stages, but there are also extended and additional stages of grief that one may find themselves in, not in this particular order, or sometimes you may find yourself in multiple stages at one time. The 5 primary stages of grief are shock, denial, guilt, depression, anger. And sometimes guilt and anger, or guilt and depression, can sort of go together, because typically the last stage of grief is generally acceptance. It's just accepting the situation for what it is, not accepting that the situation is right or correct, or that you've come to some type of closure, but accepting the situation for what it is. Now, the most difficult stage of grief is anger, because anger is the stage that hinders the most. And if we were in a facility, if we were in a room meeting face to face and in person, it's customary that you may want to have snacks, like something like a snack bar or cookies or something really, really light. You don't want anything heavy like a meal, but you want to make sure that you have snacks. People may come straight to your group from work, and they may not have had time to grab a bite to eat. So you want to have snacks, you want to have coffee, or you want to have something to drink, water or sodas or things of that nature. And that shows that you care about your people who are coming to your group. You always want to have a sign-in sheet so that you know who's present, and you'll know how to contact them so that you can follow up with them in between the time that you meet again. That also shows that your facilitator cares. So you have your housekeeping, you lay down your ground rules. I typically have anywhere between 8 to 10 ground rules. We talked about a few of them, how support group is a safe space. There's a high level of confidentiality that I uphold in my support groups. And I make sure that the group facilitator is talking 20% of the time, and the participation is 80% participation. That's that 20-80 rule. You have to understand that this is support. And in order for people to feel supported, you can't dominate the entire support group with just you teaching and talking and you dominating the entire group. No, you have to allow people to share what they're feeling, how their day has been, how their week has been. It may be difficult. They may have had some breakthroughs. You want to celebrate the wins, and you want to mourn with people when they don't have any wins. They may feel that they don't have any wins at that time. So you want to lean in with them, and you want to support them. Another thing with support groups that you need to make sure happens is you don't need to force anyone participating in your support group to talk or to share. It's totally 100% voluntary. People should be willing to share, other than forced to share in the support group. People should feel compelled to share, and that that desire to want to share comes from growth. You know, if your participants aren't feeling like they're growing, if they're not excited about coming to group, then that you may need to change something, or you may need to reconsider how you do your support group. I always make sure that I'm sorry. I always make sure that people who participate in my support group are growing, are growing. That is a requirement for my participants, is to measure their growth. I don't want people stuck where they are, because then they'll feel like, what's the use? Why come if things aren't changing? And change comes with you doing your work, with you doing your work. So those are pretty much some of the ground rules and some of the things that you need to understand about participating in a support group of any nature. And know too that they're not just homicide group supports, suicide group supports, Alcoholic Anonymous group supports, Narcotic Anonymous group supports, women who are divorced support groups. You can create a support group to meet any type of need with any like-minded individuals who feel that they need support. And that's the beauty of hosting and providing group supports in your community, because tremendous things happen in small groups. When you have small groups of people meeting together continuously for a common goal and a common purpose, something is going to happen and something is going to change. And I love meeting in small groups, and I love hosting group support. So today I'm going to share my screen because I'm going to talk a little bit about awareness. Awareness is so important. I think that they should have made awareness one of the stages of navigating through group. This is just the craziest time here. My phone is ringing off the hook. I have 3 phones and all of my phones are ringing, but that's my work phone. So I'm not going to pick that up because it's well after my work hours. But awareness is so important. Awareness. Think about that word for a moment. Awareness. Awareness. What does it mean to be aware of something? It means that something that's being noticed, something that's being seen, something that you are familiar with. And in the context of support group, I'm going to focus awareness on ourselves and how important it is to be aware of ourselves, to be aware of why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. So the first thing I'm going to ask you is think slowly, think deeply for a few seconds about how are you feeling in this very moment, in this very time and space, for 1 minute, 60 seconds. How are you feeling? Are you feeling tired? Are you feeling rushed? Are you feeling aggravated? Are you feeling frustrated? Are you excited about something? Are you content? Are you fearful? Are you doubtful? Are you uncertain? Are you sad? If you can see yourself, if you could picture seeing yourself outside of yourself, how would you describe how you look right now? And so as I'm thinking about myself and coming into an awareness of myself, right now I'm feeling pretty calm. Right now I'm feeling anxious, calm and anxious. I'll explain that in a minute. I'm feeling calm because right now I'm in the presence of my home, in my office. I'm sitting in a chair that's stable, it's comfortable. There's nothing in the background distracting me, and that's what's bringing me calm. But what's making me anxious is our world, the world that we're living in. When I became a Christian, I knew that I would change, but I guess I also thought the world would change with me, that the world would become a better place. And I think some days I do feel that the world is a better place. But then when I see tragedy happen, when I see unexplainable acts of violence and disappointment, disasters, tragedy, when I see bad things happen, it tends to make me anxious, and it tends to make me antsy, and it makes me feel like I need to do something. I need to do something. Whether it's pray, whether it's protest, whether it's rant and rave, I don't know what it is. But one thing as a coach that I try to help my clients to understand is always be aware of what you're feeling and how what you're feeling will drive your behavior, will determine your behavior. Now, without awareness, we're clueless of our own situation. It is so important to be aware. If you don't know how you're feeling right now, if you're not aware of how you're feeling right now, I must stress and tell you, take some time, take a time out. And it shouldn't take no more than 5, 10, or 15 minutes to self-examine yourself so that you can understand where you are right now in this present moment. Because even though you're not aware of how you are and what you're feeling, does not mean that that awareness is not going to drive your behavior. You have to be subconsciously and consciously aware of what you're feeling in order to understand the behavior that comes next, where that's coming from. If we're doing things and not understanding why we're doing what we're doing, it's because we're not taking time to focus, to understand our awareness. Do you know that when people find it hard to express themselves, the actions will come out in their behavior? Behavior can be controlled if and only if you're aware of how you're feeling, if you're aware of your posture and your presence. If you are not aware, it does not mean that you're not going to do anything, that you're just going to sit here and lay dormant. You're going to do things, you're going to say things, and you're going to wonder, why in the world did I do that? Because it's where you are. It comes from a place of being, your posture, your presence. It always drives your actions. It always drives your actions. That's why it's so important to always be aware of where you are and to talk about it. You know, if you're angry about something, then your speech is going to be different. The way that you come across is going to be different. And that person on the opposite end of your conversation is going to be like, wow, where did that come from? I thought you said you were cool. I thought you said that you were okay. I can tell that you're not okay by the way you're coming across. So it's time to be honest about your awareness. Where are you? We all have created boxes from where we operate without even knowing it, without being aware of that's what we're actually doing. We've created patterns, we've created habits, we've created behaviors without even realizing, without even being aware of where we are. There's a scripture in the Bible that talks about the good that I intend to do, I cannot do, and I don't understand it. The bad that I keep doing, I don't understand it. I don't want to do it, but I continuously doing it. I continuously keep doing it. And I don't know, I don't know why. I don't understand. It's because you're not coming into an awareness of who you are. Once you know who you are and can understand your thought patterns and your thought processes, then you'll be able to manage your behavior a whole lot better. The third point is we need divine intervention to help us understand our personal awareness. But, and I just threw this in here, but until that happens, you need a coach. I think everyone has the capability of tapping in to divine intervention to understand your personal awareness. But for those of us that need an additional help, that can't decipher and discern and understand divine intervention, enlist a coach to help you. A coach knows how to ask the right questions, the proper questions, in order to pull out what it is that's deep within your heart, that's deep within your mind, that's deep within your thoughts. They'll ask those questions that no one has ever asked you, or no one will dare to ever ask you, to get you thinking. And then when you hear yourself thinking, when you hear yourself talking, you obtain more clarity about how to proceed and how to go further. Clarity is so good. It is a good thing to be aware of who you are, where you are, and where you are going. You know, God opens doors for us every day. He allows us, welcomes us, invites us to walk through open doors. But if you are not aware of who you are, you will never understand what it is you need to do once you walk through that door. Have you ever signed up for a business meeting, a spiritual brunch, prayer breakfast? Have you ever walked through the doors of a church not knowing what to expect? Have you ever went to a meeting, joined an online meeting because the title seemed interesting and something that you might be interested in? And then once the meeting started, you're like, what in the world am I doing here? What am I to learn? Who are these people? How do I present myself? It's always good to know your own personal awareness so that whenever that door opens, whenever that window of opportunity presents itself, you know exactly what it is that you need to do as you're stepping through that door to your destiny. Now, the next point is we cannot see what to do because of our vantage point. Think about it. We all have a vantage point. Some of us have an advantage point. Some of us have a disadvantage point. Who determines that? You determine that. Everyone has a vantage point. So is it an advantage or is it a disadvantage? You know, I think our vantage points stem all the way back from our childhood and things that we were introduced to, the things that we were taught coming up in our rearing, family traditions, things that we experience in elementary school, close relationships, maybe bullying, maybe taunting, being teased and picked at, being disciplined for something that you did wrong, being punished for something that someone else did. That creates a vantage point. Living on the right side of the tracks, living on the wrong side of the tracks. You determine that. That's your vantage point. Being sheltered by your parents, not being sheltered by your parents, having the opportunity to experience culture and the arts, being introduced to fine foods rather than being at a disadvantage to eating the same foods every day, making ends meet, stretching the dollar, secondhand hand-me-down clothes, secondhand hand-me-down furniture. You know, we all have a vantage point for the way that we see the world, or the way that we see ourselves. So is your vantage point an advantage to you, or is it a disadvantage to you? And how do you change that? If your vantage point is an advantage to you, do you know you have a responsibility to help those whose vantage point poses as a disadvantage to them? Because the same opportunities that you have are the same opportunities that they have, but because of their vantage point, they don't see how they could ever be in this position. They don't see how they could ever be in this job or go to this school or live in this neighborhood. God isn't biased. He isn't biased. The same vision that he gives to me, he gives to the person to my right, he gives to the person to my left. It's just from our vantage point that allows us or causes us to see it differently. It's the same. When we're looking through God's lens, we see it from his vantage point, and that's always an advantage. So check your vantage point. Check your vantage point. If there are some things that you have been patterned to do or not to do, is it prohibiting you from moving forward? Are there some things about yourself that you need to change? I think it would be good for you to start working on those things, to become aware of those things. And then lastly, your thought process needs to shift. The other side of the open door is where things happen. The other side of the open door is where things happen. If you are afraid to even look in, to even step into the other side of that opportunity or the other side of that open door, you have no idea on what you're missing out on in life. You'll continue to be familiar with what's familiar to you. Same thoughts, same thought process, same wishes. I wish I was able to do that. I wish I had the opportunity that they have. I wish, But because of your vantage point, it stops you, it prohibits you from, from your vantage point becoming an advantage to you rather than being a disadvantage. And and all of that is understood through awareness. It's so important for us to focus on our personal awareness when we're mourning, when we're sad. See, no one can really cause you to do wrong and to think wrong, you know. And a lot of times, whatever is going on with us is not because of what's going on around us. It's caused by what's going on from within us. And that's why it's so important to be aware. Be aware of who you are so that you can create a plan. You can have some goals about coming up out of this thing so that things can start getting better, not just for you, but also for people who are around you. When you do better, everyone who's attached to you does better. It's a ripple effect. Just like whenever something bad happens to you or for you, it affects those who are closest to you. So why not when good things happen to you, they also ripple into the lives of those who are closest to us, and that they can feel the joy, they can feel the excitement, they can feel the zeal, and that we all can be happy together, even if it's just for a time, even if it's just for a moment. It's a moment not wasted. So, in closing for this support group for tonight, the focus is awareness. How will you focus more on being aware of who you are, what you're trying to accomplish, what it is from this outside force that's causing you to feel whatever it is that you're feeling? Understand the first 3 sentences of the Serenity Prayer, which goes something like this. God, give me the serenity, give me the peace to accept the things I cannot change, to change the things that I can, and to know the difference between the two. And in order to know the difference between being able to change the things that you can and asking for peace about the things that you're unable to change, takes a huge amount of self-awareness. Be good and be well, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.